This trade, it was the morning of FOMC, and we did a little, you see the overnight didn't do much, and then opening up in the morning there, I should have been in that trade to the upside, but I wasn't. Like I said, I was just kind of letting it rotate back and forth, and it was such a tight range there. I was just waiting. But that was a nice move up, but it was the first time we were kind of getting out of that area, and that thick red line is the previous week's value at high. They were using that yesterday as kind of a mark. You can see that they were using that in the overnight. They didn't want to get over that. So I thought for sure there would be resistance up here. I think I got into this trade too early. But the only thing is, the way it was sweeping like that, I felt like there was a chance it was going to go very quickly and I wasn't going to have a chance to get in that trade. So, if we would have pushed up, obviously, if we would have pushed up over the top of that sweep in that C period there, I would have closed this. But I felt like, I was either kind of too late the way you look at it, because I could have entered there, or I should have entered way up at that peak, but I wanted to see it come back, right? So then there's a really good trade entry that's going to show up if you look at the 5-minute chart. But how did I know that that's what was going to happen here? So, if this was a trade I wanted to take, they're not all perfect. So basically, like I said, I thought there would be selling pressure up here above that. That's the weekly value high. And then you're obviously over the overnight high there. And you can see the value area high on the right side profile is up there. And I thought we would come back and get a full rotation back through there. And obviously you want to look, I would look towards that. I'd look at that overnight POC, but definitely your other POC has shifted up. But I would look like in that VWAP area, if we start coming down. And this was fighting pretty good. I like them to be a little bit smoother, obviously, but as when that first went up there and swept that previous week's value at high, the way it just swept up there, I thought it was just going to just drop like a rock and fall through here, so I didn't want to miss it. But especially in here, if you look at that 5-minute, that's a lot better entry. But like I keep saying, I didn't know it was going to do that. So, if I wasn't in it already and I was watching this, you'll see, I'll point out the exact spot that I'm talking about. But I think any one of these where it started stepping down like this, if I would have entered in any one of these, you can see it making lower highs in that 5-minute. Like I said, I'd want to take some, I usually take some about mid-range, and then I wanted to see the flush out through the bottom, but this one really slows down and it grinds the whole way. So I'll take a little bit more in that area. I think right in here, that would be the best. If you're watching this right now, to me, that looks like one of the best entries. Not as it moves up, but when it gives up here. If you're watching that 5-minute. And after you watch those 5-minute charts for so long, you can see that same movement in the TPO. So, you don't always have to watch the 5-minute chart, but I did that so that I could start to, internalize what movements I'm looking at when I'm looking at the TPO. You know what I mean? The way it's interacting, because a lot of my trades are based on how it's interacting with those levels. So, after a while, you'll be able to just look at the TPO and you'll see that it's interacting this way. But I wanted to visually see that on the 5-minute chart. And I think, somewhere in here, see the way that rejected out of there. But like I said, I got a better entry, and I didn't have to wait for this, and I didn't miss it, which I've missed them plenty of times. But at this point, my problem with this trade, and I was talking about it in the Telegram, is that I wanted it to pick up speed, and it just keeps it's almost like they keep trying to buy it at these levels, which is what was happening up there at the top, right? They were trying to push it higher, trying to get over the top of that, the overnight high and those levels up there. Even here, the way it's lagging, it just slowly grinds through here. And when it starts to do this, that's when I will definitely start taking some off around this. I said in the Telegram, think about taking some off in this area. Once you get down to these VWAPs, because, I took one off there. I think we get through these VWAPs and I take another one off. Because of the way that they were, it seemed like they wanted to buy it. They were really struggling to push higher. It makes me feel like there's a better chance they're going to, maybe come in on this VWAP area to try to take it higher. But, obviously at this point, I feel pretty good about it, but you're still sitting at that session VWAP. So if they were going to build out of this, that's where they, it's a good spot that they would start to do that. So that's why I was, taking them off. I took contracts off sooner than I normally would on a trade like this. Because I say that because if it was speeding up, if it was just, I wanted it to flush right through there. I could have held those contracts for longer and waited for the flush. But the way it was, like I keep saying, the way it was, it's hesitant. You can see it even now, and this is 5 times the speed. But and you can see I'm holding that for that flush. But once it gets down here to that thick yellow line is that weekly POC. I figure that's close enough for me. I don't need to wait for those, last couple ticks. And once it gets down like this too, I don't expect that to be up over that VWAP. You can see it already tested the VWAP. So right there, I closed that up for the last one, and then it does flush through the bottom here.